Alright, welcome to this video. Today we are going to talk about, and you're going to not see my head here for just a minute. Today we are going to talk about what is equity. What is equity in a home? Okay guys, so this is important, and I want to make sure that we cover this because I know when I first started I was a little embarrassed that maybe I didn't understand exactly what all of the terminology, all the real estate lingo meant. And I'm doing this video today because I do get a lot of questions on the term equity, and I want to really define this and give you some examples here about how we go about looking for equity and how equity is a critical factor when you are a real estate investor. And it's a critical factor in allowing you to profit and make money from real estate transactions. So it's really important to understand what equity is, right? Because it can be this, weird, mysterious thing that's kind of hard to understand, and I want to make sure to clear that up for you. So I'm not sure what happened with the camera there. It went a little fuzzy for just a second, but we're going to keep moving here. So anyways, guys, whoops. Let's see, I just threw my marker. All right, so anyways, guys, let's talk about equity here. So let's just say, for example, and you'll have to excuse me, I am not the best artist, but let's just say this is our house, and let's put a value on this house of $200,000, okay? So let's put a value of this house on $200,000. This is what the house is worth, okay? And let's say this is the house that we live in, okay? We live in a $200,000 house, and we pay $200,000 at the start. We pay full price, and let's say we put a down payment of 10%, okay? Now, I will get into the real estate aspect of equity here in a minute as far as for real estate investors and how important this is and that type of thing. But I want to give you this example first so that we understand the concept of equity, okay? So let's say we put a down payment of $20,000. Okay, so we've put a down payment now of $20,000. And let me scoot this just a little bit closer here. So we've put this down payment of $20K. And so then what we do is we take a loan out on the rest. And this is called a mortgage payment. So we have a loan coming out on the rest, and that's $180,000, right? So our mortgage, whatever we're paying a month, $1,000 a month, $900 a month, whatever that is, we're taking a mortgage out on this number right here, and that's where we have our mortgage payment and things like that, okay? So there is a difference of $20,000, and that is the amount that we put down on the down payment, right? Now let's say we're living in the home, and let's say now 3 years has passed, okay? And now, the market has gotten a little bit hotter, values have gone up, and let's say the house is no longer worth $200,000. Let's say it's been 3 years, and the value has gone up to $225,000. Now keep in mind, we've been paying our mortgage, and I'm just using this as a rough example here, right? And we've been paying our mortgage, so let's say our mortgage now is, we only owe $160,000. So now how much equity do we have in the home, right? It's 3 years have passed, the house value has gone up to $225,000. The mortgage, because we put $20,000 down when we originally bought it, and we've been paying down the mortgage for the past 3 years, and now we only owe $160,000. So it's worth $225,000, but we owe $160,000. So the difference of the value of the house, of what we could sell it for, and what we owe, that is going to be the equity. So equity can be expressed via a percentage or a dollar amount. And I want to show you that here in just a little bit. And then we're going to get in how this pertains to real estate investing, right? So the difference here, just busting out a calculator, 225 minus 160 is $65,000. So now we have $65,000 of equity, okay? $65,000 of equity in this home. And that's when you hear terms like people take out a home equity loan, a home equity line of credit. The bank will, do an appraisal of the house, and they see that the house is now worth $225,000, and so they will, and that you only owe $160. So maybe they will give you, a home equity line of credit of up to $200,000, and you owe $160 on your mortgage, so there's an extra $40,000 there that you have, and a lot of people will take that to do home repairs or possibly use that as a down payment on a new home and things like that. So when you hear, I have, a certain amount of equity in the house, this is the number that we're referring to, okay? Okay, so now let's get into how this pertains to real estate investing. So, if there was a house that was worth $100,000 and we paid full asking price as a real estate investor and we paid $100,000 for it, then we're basically getting no deal, right? We're paying absolutely full price. We're stepping into this deal with zero equity, right? So if you're able to do strategic marketing, and you might hear the term out there, like, Stephen, I want to go after houses with a lot of equity. And you might think, well, what are they really talking about? And I know, in some of my videos, and I've gotten questions about that. And that's why I want to do this video, to kind of clear up this concept. And you might hear different things, and terminology sometimes can be confusing. And I don't want to take it for granted. Like, I want to, really spell this out. And I wish I had somebody that kind of explained this to me when I first started. And there's other different terminologies that can be confusing in the real estate world as well. So if you ever want me to do a video on other terminologies and things that you're struggling with in your investing business, I don't want you to be shy. I want you to ask. I want you to comment below, because, we need to talk about these things, and that way we can have a clear understanding and everybody can be on the same page. So, a lot of times the mistake, or not the mistake, but where you'll find yourself as a new investor is you're talking with a lot of motivated sellers, and they might just simply, there might be no equity in the deal. The life of a real estate investor, we don't want to be paying full price for property. Now, that doesn't mean we just go around lowballing everyone, and that's an objection that you have to learn how to overcome, and kind of paint the picture to people of how we actually do our due diligence. So let's take the example down here. If the house is worth $100,000, but whether it's coming in from a cash position, or even taking out financing or private money or hard money, or however the case is, and now you're paying $60,000 for a property that could be worth $100,000, but you've now paid $60,000. Okay, so in this situation, if it could be worth $100,000, that's the value, and you've paid $60,000, and let's just say, for example's sake, you took out a line of credit on this, or whatever the case is, however your financing is coming through, but you owe this amount. You owe $60,000 on the property, but it's worth, you could sell it right now for $100,000. You just stepped into a $40,000 equity position, because again, you owe $60,000, but if you sold it, you would make $40,000 profit. So in the world and in the game of real estate, you want to make sure that there is equity in every deal that we deal with, because otherwise, we're stepping into deals where, there's no equity. So let's give an example. So let's say you're doing some calls, you're driving for dollars, you're calling for sale by owners, and you're going to be talking with a lot of people who are, let's say they're saying all the right things, they're very motivated, they want to sell, and they give you a price. They're like, Stephen, if you're able to come in, pay all cash, make me an offer on my house, I will sell it for $150,000. And you're like, man, they're super motivated. I'm pumped up. They will sell it for $150,000. Okay, and then we get home, we start doing our research on the property, and we do that, and we realize that the house, I should have put this number down here. Okay, so $150,000 is what they'll take. And we start doing our research, and we see that the house, in perfect condition, if it were to sell, it's only worth $160,000. So if we were to come in as a real estate investor and pay $150,000, we only have $10,000 of equity or potential profit, from that transaction, right? So that is not going to be the best type of a lead, right? We want to get deals where there's a strong equity position. So if you're in the world of direct mail, right? There are high equity. So we want to deal with leads a lot of times that have lived in the house a long time. And here's a couple of golden tips. Long ownership. So if somebody's lived in the house for 30 years, right, there's a good chance that they don't still owe $150,000 on a $160,000 house. There's a good chance that they've actually paid down the mortgage over 30 years, since the average mortgage is 30 years. There's a good chance that the property is this beautiful term right here called free and clear. So in this situation where you're offering $150,000 on a $160,000 property, no matter how compelling your offer is, and let's just say in this example, the reason that they'll take $150,000 for their property is because they owe $140,000. So even if you're the world's best salesman and you're able to give them the most amazing pitch ever, if you come in with an offer, especially if you're wholesaling, and you come in with an offer of $80,000 to $90,000, let's just say for example, they still owe $140,000 on this $160,000 house. There's no way they're going to take your offer unless they have just this huge financial savings that they're sitting on, which most people don't. So they're not going to take much less than $140,000. So especially when you're wholesaling houses, but even in other aspects of real estate, we want to be dealing with houses and leads that are potentially free and clear. That means on a $160,000 house, they have the house completely paid off, or, maybe they owe 10, 20, 30, 40,000. So let's test your knowledge. Let's see if you're paying attention here. So if we have a $160,000 house, and that's the value of it, and they owe $40,000 left on the mortgage. Let's say they've been living in the house for 15, 20 years. They were able to, make some extra payments and things like that, and this is how much they owe. My question for you, my friend, is what is the equity? What is the equity in this deal? Okay? What's the equity? Well, the equity, my friend, is $120,000. You got it. You're paying attention. This is awesome. So you're learning what equity is. So now equity can also be expressed off of a percentage, right? So if they owe $40,000, right? If they owe, okay, let's see. We got 160 way up here. We got 0 way down here. And they only owe $40,000. So they've paid the mortgage all the way down to here. And they only have this much left to go, right? But they've paid this entire amount off. So all of this is equity, and that's 75% equity, right? So 120,000, if we just take a calculator here, 120,000 divided by 160,000 is 0.75 on the calculator, right? So it's 75%. 120 is 75% of 160. So this would be a 75% equity position, right? If you have a $100,000 house and you still owe, if you have a $100,000 house and you still owe 80, there's only $20,000 of equity, and you only have 20% because you've only paid $20,000 down. You still have $80,000 to go. So you have a 20% equity position. So it can be expressed in a dollar amount and a percentage amount, and the higher percentage amount, the better. So equity is one of those things that it's not like you can, go out to dinner, take your wife or your husband out to a nice steak dinner and you guys are hanging out and the waiter comes and you're like, I'd like to pay for this dinner with the equity that I have in my property. It's not one of those things. But as far as your assets versus liabilities, when you're calculating your net worth, equity, the equity you have in a home, in your home, or in a home that you're renting out, or if you're an investor, a home that you're potentially trying to wholesale, you need to make sure there's enough equity in a deal. So for wholesaling, again, in the example I gave on this page, if you have, a lead where the house is only worth 160, but they owe 140 or 150, there's no way that can almost ever be a deal because they owe way too much, and 99% of people are not just going to say, well, I owe 150,000, you're only offering me 80, so I'm going to pull 70 out of the savings and just lose that $70,000. A lot of times they're going to sit on the market for a while and those can become stale, and they might list it with a realtor or do other things. So when you're doing your marketing as a real estate investor and especially as a wholesaler, but either way, you want to be thinking about and these deals are out there. So I don't want you to believe that these deals are not possible. You want to be thinking about deals that are free and clear and deals that have large percentages or large dollar amounts of equity, right? Because we want to step into properties with an equity position. Whether you're buying it yourself or you're wholesaling it to an end buyer, they're not going to want to step into a property that doesn't have equity, that doesn't have profit margin built in, or else why would they buy that deal? You know what I mean? So, guys, I just thought this was really important to explain, and if you guys would like more information on the type of lead sources that I go after, in the right corner of this video, I have a video that a couple years ago went viral. It has over 127,000 views. One of my #1 lead sources is inherited properties. If you'd like my entire step-by-step wholesaling training where I absolutely blow the doors open of how to market to motivated sellers and everything you need to know about wholesaling from start to finish, you can also check that out in the description. But I've been getting a lot of questions on equity and with people generating leads and they don't have a lot of equity built in. So I want you to kind of have that on your mind that, like, okay, if there's a lead that doesn't have a ton of equity, a lot of times from an investor perspective, that's not the type of a lead we're looking for. So I think this is a powerful concept. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. If you did, definitely let me know. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Please be sure to browse the other videos here on my channel. Smash the like button and let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. I hope you enjoyed the training today.